Alright, so back out in the garage. Decided to come back out here and put the head on. Head gasket only goes on one way. If you'll notice, there's a locator pin right here, and there's a hole in the gasket that it goes into, but not on the other side, so that only goes in one way. After that, I'm going to put in the tappets. I have to clean them off individually and then lube them all up real good before I put them in, so I'm going to do all that and I'll get back to you. Alright, so I've installed 7 of the 8 tappets so far, and the way they go in is, if you look down inside here, I don't know if I'll get any light on it. You can just see the shiny part right down there. That's the top of the cam. And the cam, what the cam does, the cam lobes push up and down on these tappets. And as the tappets go down, the connecting rods are inside the tappet, and then the other side of the connecting rod is on the rocker arm assembly. So to install these, what I first did was take a bunch of assembly lube and drizzle it down on the lobes of the cam, on all of them. And then what I'm doing is take a bunch of assembly lube, put it all over the tappet, and get all the area nice and lubed up with assembly lube. And then put it in the block, and I just kind of spin it around, go up and down with it, just making sure everything is nice and lubed, and then push it all the way down until it touches the cam, and then I just take the excess and shove it down the hole, and then that's it. So now we're going to go ahead and put on this head gasket, and then we're going to install the head, and then after that, connecting rods. So we'll go for there. Alright, the way my head goes on, and different units are going to be different. Some have head bolts, some have studs. Mine has a combination of both. For the ends, I have studs, and they're basically just there to direct the head on evenly onto the gasket, so you don't have to shift it around once it's down. And just install these studs first, a little bit of Loctite on them, and they don't have to be super tight, just snug them down good. And then when you put the nut on it, the nut will do the holding down power. And then from here, we're going to install the push rods, and I'm just going to put one in dry real quick just to show you. Down these holes here, they lead to the tappet, so you're going to lube up the end of this real good, and then send it down the hole here, and it just fits in the tappet real nice, and then it just lays here until you put the rocker arms on, and then the bottom of the rocker arms will fit into here. So I'm going to lube them up and put them all in, and we'll go from there. Actually, no, I'm not. Getting ahead of myself. I'm going to get this the head bolted down and torqued, and the torque specs are in the book. Yeah, the numbers are there. Tell you which bolt you tighten down first, and then the torque specs I thought were here, but they must be in the back of the book. Yeah, okay, tightening torque right there. So just gonna take a look at that. It's 61.5 foot-pounds is the most they want you to put in there. So we'll put 61, and we'll tighten them up. Okay, so when installing your head bolts, you want some oil on the threads, but you don't want excess oil. So what you need to do is put it on the threads, and then I take, hang on. I take my fingers and get it all the way down the threads, and then take a rag and wipe off the excess. because the last thing you want, these holes are blind holes. So if you have too much oil, like I see a lot of guys taking the bolts and just dipping them in oil and then putting them down the hole. Well, what happens is that excess oil goes to the bottom of the hole. You tighten the bolt down onto that film of oil, and when you torque the bolt down, you're torquing against that oil. So it's going to give you a false reading. So you want your threads to have oil on them, but you don't want to have excess on them. And after putting on the second last bolt, I realized I already screwed up. I got to pull the head off again, or at least pull it up, because on the end here takes the thermostat housing. And I should have remembered this, because when I pulled it apart, you had to, this was on the head. You had that stud that's in there, and this won't fit. There's not enough room to fit that in there, and you also can't back that stud out because there's not enough room to back the stud out. So you actually have to put this thermostat housing on the head before you install the head. So I'm gonna, now that these bolts are all nice and oiled up, I'm just gonna put them on a clean rag, pop off the head real quick, and install the thermostat housing on the end of the head, and then put it back together. Alright, that's going to be it for the night. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I just mocked up the alternator because there's a spacer here that was rolling around on the bench, and I wanted to make sure it goes there, and it does. And a couple extra bolts laying around that I wanted to make sure went here, and they do. And then also I had to put this cover on the back of the injection pump. So that's going to do it for me tonight. And then tomorrow we'll get on top of the motor here and get to some painting, and hopefully get this thing going in the next few days. So just remember, drain cooling water perfectly in cold season for preventing frozen. And if you haven't yet, please rate, comment, subscribe, and have a great night.